My name is Miranda Canseco, and it is my pleasure to be the MC and then the facilitator for today's live podcast. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you got some breakfast, some coffee, and are ready for a very insightful conversation. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the Resilient and Real Summit. Today promises to be an inspiring and engaging day filled with thoughtful discussion, expert insights, and invaluable takeaways. We are honored to have such a esteemed gathering of professionals and thought leaders with us. Our expert panelists are ready to share their wisdom and experiences, and I have no doubt that their contributions will be both enlightening and thought-provoking. One of the highlights of today's summit is that it is a live podcast. This format allows for a dynamic interaction and also for all of you to participate in today's conversation. This is a platform for voices to be heard and ideas to be exchanged. Before we dive into today's activities, I'd like to recognize some of our behavioral health commissioners that are in the audience with us today. If you can please stand to be recognized. Today's conversation, you'll see a QR code that comes up onto the screen. That is an opportunity, as well as on each of your tables, an opportunity for you to submit your questions. So throughout today's program, while we're having our panel discussion, if a thought comes into mind, please submit your questions, and then at the end of the program, we will have an opportunity to engage with all of you. I'd also like to highlight that today's conversation might stir up some feelings, some emotions, and so we do have our community crisis response teams in the audience, and they are available to talk, as well as we have a privacy room that is available for anyone. Once again, welcome to the Resilient and Real Summit. You are all in for a treat, and it is my pleasure to introduce our first opening remarks speaker, Diane Rundles. So Diane Rundles serves as our San Bernardino County Assistant Executive Officer with over 16 years of experience in human resources and 24 years working in various government organizations. Her drive towards continuous improvement, nimble problem-solving skills, and her passion for making a difference make her a very effective change agent. So please welcome Diane Rundles.
Thank you, Miranda, and good morning, everybody. Welcome. What a beautiful event so far, right? At least the decorations and the environment is just beautiful. It's an honor to welcome you all to this important podcast summit, which celebrates mental health awareness and encourages us all today to explore our own personal well-being. Today's an exciting day to dive into both our personal mental health and community mental health, and to focus on resiliency and its importance in our community. Mental health is a cornerstone to our well-being. It affects how we think, how we feel, act, plays a vital role in how much we can handle in the way of stress, how we relate to others, and our own self-efficacy to achieve our own personal dreams. I always tell my kids, you cannot fill a cup with an empty jug. We must take care of ourselves before we can take care of others, and we often neglect that. It's something we have to remind ourselves of. But when you're driving in your car and the engine light goes on, what do? Hopefully not ignore it. You take it in to be serviced because it needs attention, because it's your vehicle to get through life, right? Well, our own personal mental health is our own vehicle to get through life, to navigate life's challenges, to be resilient. And if we don't take care of ourselves first, we really can't effectively take care of others. So it's so important that we pay attention to this and that we focus on May Mental Health Month and have really great events like this where we can explore those topics. An indicator of a resilient community is one that relies on the strength of community members and leaders to solve challenging problems, bring programs and opportunities for communities to gather in fellowship to create a broader sense of home and inclusivity. Today we can hear from great experts. This summit is a platform to explore new ideas, strategies, and solutions that can help us build stronger, healthier, and more resilient individuals and communities. I would like to extend my gratitude to all the speakers, panelists, and participants for their dedication and commitment to mental health. As we embark on this journey today, remember that mental health and community resilience are interconnected. By supporting mental health, we strengthen our communities. By fostering resilient communities, we enhance the well-being of our individuals within the community. Thank you for being here, and I look forward to meaningful discussions today and collaborations that will take place.
It is now my pleasure to introduce our next speaker and esteemed dignitary in our audience, our Board of Supervisor Chair, Don Rao. So Don Rao is our San Bernardino County 3rd District Supervisor and has served on the board since December of 2018 and is currently serving as our chairman. As County Supervisor, Chair Rao has championed public safety for our communities. She currently serves on 22 boards and commissions and is the past president chair of both the San Bernardino County Transportation Authority and the Inland Empire Health Plan. Please welcome Chair Rao.
Thank you very much, Miranda. It's an honor to be here with you today. So as she mentioned, I am the current chairman of the board, and I have the honor of working with the other 4 supervisors to prioritize things such as mental health and our Department of Behavioral Health. Today, as we gather on this critical topic that affects us all, and we discuss mental health, I really wanted to let you know that I'm incredibly honored to be here and proud of all of you for prioritizing such an important subject. Mental health is a vital part of our overall well-being, and it affects every aspect of our lives. It affects our relationships, our work performance, our physical health, our overall quality of life. As a county, we are committed to supporting our residents' mental health and well-being. Our vision is to create a safe, healthy, and thriving community where everybody has access to resources that they need. This vision is ours in San Bernardino County, and it's a part of our strategic plan, which prioritizes mental health and wellness as a key focus area. So what does it mean to build bridges for resiliency and wellness? It means creating connections between our community members, our services, and our resources. It means providing support and opportunities for people to build strong relationships, to develop coping skills, to access quality care, especially when and where they need it. It means working together to break down barriers and reduce stigma around mental health. Supporting our Department of Behavioral Health is crucial to achieving this vision. This department plays a pivotal role in providing comprehensive mental health services to our community. They offer a range of programs that include crisis intervention, counseling, and preventive services tailored to meet the diverse needs of our residents. By empowering this department, we ensure that individuals and families receive timely and effective support, which can prevent mental health challenges from escalating to more serious conditions. The Board of Supervisors recognizes that mental health is not just an individual concern, but a collective responsibility. Investing in our Department of Behavioral Health not only aids those in immediate need, but it also contributes to the overall socioeconomic growth of our county. Healthy individuals drive a productive workforce, it lowers healthcare costs, it fosters safer neighborhoods, and moreover, destigmatizing mental health and promoting well-being encourages a more inclusive and compassionate society, which aligns with our broader goals of equity and justice. As we move forward, I urge each of you to join in building bridges of resiliency and wellness. Let's work together to create a culture of understanding, support, and inclusivity. Let's provide the resources and services that meet the needs of our community members, and let's prioritize mental health and wellness in everything we do. Thank you.
So now to kick off our program, we do have a keynote speaker, and it is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Chanté DeLoach. Dr. DeLoach is an educator, scholar, and practicing psychologist. She is the founder of Luminescence Psychological Services, a boutique clinical and counseling practice dedicated to providing interpersonal work that honors intergenerational legacies of trauma and resilience while fostering generative healing for individuals and communities. You are all definitely in for a treat. Please welcome Dr. DeLoach.
It is such a great honor and treat to be back here and to be here for such an important conversation, an important topic. And special thank you to Eden and the entire DBH PR and community-based team for all of the love and labor poured into making this event possible. In the brief time that I have this morning, I want to start by inviting you, us, to first center ourselves. Notice what you feel when you slow down enough to attune to the body and to the breath. Notice what parts of you might feel tense, might still feel frantic from the morning rush just trying to get here. But I invite you to honor the things that will still be there waiting for you when we leave here, all the emails, all the messages, and to just center for a few minutes and focus on our well-being, something that we don't often do enough. In the few minutes that I have, I want to talk about drawing from our well to promote our well-being. Drawing from our well to promote our well-being. We often reference wells as a metaphor to imagine reaching within ourselves to access what we need to navigate life's challenges, much like those before us or those who still rely upon wells, draw upon wells for water. I often think about my own well, which admittedly is often not quite as full as I want it to be. Now, there's a story about a well in my family that has been passed down to me. Now, while time won't allow for me to tell this story in the fullness that it deserves, it serves as a backdrop for how and why I think about my own well so often. And just as a care warning, there is some violence that I reference in this brief story. My great-grandmother, Julia May DeLoach, a biracial Black woman born to a formerly enslaved mother who birthed the child of her slave master. When she was an infant in Louisiana, a group of white vigilantes, sometimes referred to as night riders, came through the area, surrounded our family's home, and set it on fire. Unfortunately, it burned down with most of the family in it. But one of Julia May's older brothers was somehow able to escape the burning house with baby Julia May and threw her in an abandoned well in prayers and hopes of protecting her from harm, as he rode off and fought to defend the remaining family and our land. That night, her brother, whose name I don't know, and that well saved her life. She survived to tell the story of that night and the brother she never saw again. That's a true story, y'all. Now, that might sound like a tragic and violent story to start the morning. But her story, my story, like so many of yours, is not a tragic story. It's a story of survival and resilience. I often think of my great-grandmother as the baby in the well and everything she survived. Thankfully, most of us are not running from night riders, or at least not the same kind, to save our lives. Yet, I want to talk about the purpose of a well and fostering resilience and what we need in our well today to not just survive, but to thrive in times such as this. And so as we think about wells, I invite you to pause and reflect on the question, what is in my well? Next slide, please. Let's start with resilience. We've mentioned this already, and just what we understand it to mean. There's so many different definitions of resilience. In short, it refers to the process of adapting well or overcoming serious challenges. There are likely people who instantly come to mind when you think of resilience. Perhaps you think of yourself, perhaps you think of your own circumstances. I instantly think of my daughter, who you see here, with her permission, by the way, who was born 3 months early, weighing a meager 2 pounds and 4 ounces, who was hospitalized for more than 2 months, endured multiple medical procedures, who every time a doctor thought she wasn't quite ready to do something, or who told me that I needed to prepare for what might come, she would show them and the world that she was always up for the challenge. This little one who still struggles with severe asthma, yet plays sports every day, and I'm so proud to say she just won her first USTA tennis trophy. That's resilience, y'all. So often, when we think of resilience, we think of dramatic stories, like my great-grandmother's, like my daughter's, or others who have often survived more than us. Yet, resilience is not the same thing as survival, although we must be resilient to survive. Today, you can go to the next slide, please. Today, I want us to reflect the how of resilience. I want us to identify what we're already doing well, because so many of us are doing so many things well, and what areas we need to strengthen in order to persevere, to bounce back, particularly during a time when many people are tired, weary, and may not feel optimistic or hopeful about the life, about our lives, about the world around us. Indeed, in so many spaces and relationships, some of us are in a state of weary survival. Many of us may no longer be leading with a strengths-based mindset of bouncing back. Instead, we might feel like we're dragging ourselves across the finish line. Some of you may have felt like it took everything in you just to get here today. Yet most of us in this room have overcome a range of different types of adversity just to be here in this moment. Next slide, please. Psychologists describe resilience not as a fixed trait, something you either have or lack, but as a dynamic living system, a metaphorical well that needs continual inputs, rest, emotional connection, small wins, or times when we feel capable. So let's talk about some ways we can strengthen our own resilience and fill up that well, or how we can help to cultivate it in others around us, from our children and our loved ones to our clients, our work teams, our direct reports. The 4 C's, care, connection, culture, and change, are some of the concrete ways we can cultivate resilience and well-being and pour into our well. The first C is care. You can go to the next slide. What and who do you care about? Do you show as much care for yourself as you do for others? Now, I'm going to admit here, just in this small, intimate group of 200, plus our podcast listeners, that I am a constant caregiver. Always giving, showing up as a parent, as an aunt, as a daughter when my mom was alive, as a sibling to someone with severe mental illness, as a professor for my students, as a department chair, as a therapist for my clients. Many of us can't even count the number of ways we are caregiving. If we consider care as a form of emotional or energetic currency, we must evaluate how much we are giving and whether that is balanced by the care we receive from others. Often, caregivers do not receive or even allow themselves to accept care from those around them. Many of us take better care of others than we do of ourselves. Now, I'm going to say that again. Many of us take better care of others than we do for ourselves. I know I'm not alone in that. In recent years, self-care has received much needed increased attention. However, our understanding of self-care often gets limited to activities like spa days, vacations, and naps. I would pay good money for a nap right now. Yet, we tend to marginalize self-care as something reserved for weekends or as a reward for enduring the work week, for getting through the school year, for making it through a conference, a task of some type. But are we truly practicing self-care every day? Do we engage in self-compassion and extend ourselves grace during life's difficult moments as a reflection of self-love and care? One of the most important questions we can ask ourselves is, how have I designed my daily life to take care of myself? Do I make time and space to eat healthy meals, move my body, get enough sleep, connect with people who matter to me, laugh, and breathe deeply? While these small daily practices may not be the same as a massage or a spa day, the research tells us that they help to cultivate that resilience and well-being that can transform how we experience each day and navigate the world. Those small practices might prevent us from saying some things that perhaps we might not want to say. Perhaps we don't need to unsend quite a few, so many messages. This is especially important for caregivers and for care workers. Collective care, we're seeing more attention around. We've moved beyond just attention to self-care. When we talk about collective care, we're referring to seeing one another's well-being, particularly their emotional health, as a shared responsibility of the group rather than as the sole responsibility of one person. And as an aside, that one person is often the quote-unquote strong one, that strong person in a family, that strong person in a friend group. Anybody the strong one? You're tired, aren't you? Mm-hmm. Me too, I'm with you. But when we talk about collective care, there are great examples of these. Meal trains for someone who's ill or just had a baby or a loss in their family. Creating a shared care plan for a friend who needs support or is isolated in some way. And we've learned so much from queer and disabled communities who have used collective care models for decades. Mia Birdsong has written a book and describes so many examples in her book, How We Show Up. Now, the next C, next slide please, is connection. As we see with collective care, research shows us that resilience is not just about our individual strengths, but it's social support that may matter the most. Feeling connected and cultivating positive social relationships, that's essential to resilience and filling up our well. This sense of connection isn't just about how much time we spend with friends or loved ones, but by the quality and the meaning of those interactions. So, for example, keeping a group chat with trusted friends or colleagues can offer a judgment-free space to connect whenever needed. Many of us have a work bestie who makes each day bearable, or friends we may rarely see, but still feel deeply connected to. Now, I often joke about my overactive group chats and how I have to mute them just to be able to get anything done every day. Yet, those same folks who I chat with in a group, I joke with, vent to, these are the same people who showed up for me when I lost my parents. These are the people who show up when I need them most, across time zones. So it's important not to minimize the value of virtual connections, especially when they show up as a lifeline in those difficult moments. Research supports what our hearts have already told us, that good social support helps us manage stress during difficult times. It benefits both our mental and our physical health. Most of us know fight or flight is a key stress response, but tend and befriend is also a stress response, coined by UCLA psychologist Shelley Taylor. This refers to a stress response we often see in women who respond to stress by releasing oxytocin and beginning to tend to our children, to our young ones, and by seeking connections or befriending one another, seeking connection during times of stress. Those social interactions are comforting and our stress levels decrease. So if you're someone who tends to isolate and people have to come looking for you during times of stress, right? If we're able to push back against that tendency and connect with others, we're much more likely to reduce the stress and feel supported. Now, as a therapist, assessing social support is critical to my work. We all recognize that all friendships are not the same. Some of us learn the hard way, right? But I inquire not just about the availability and quality of social relationships, but also about how effectively individuals use social supports. And this serves as a reminder for all of us in the room, even those of us who are clinicians. The people around us cannot show up for us. They cannot support us if they don't know we need help. It takes strength to be vulnerable enough to ask for help and to say, we're not okay, and no, I don't have it. Next slide. The third C is culture. To some extent, resiliency depends on culture. What is important for resiliency in one culture may be less important in another culture. We have familial and cultural teachings of strength, survival, and culture that are passed down intergenerationally that shape how we think of ourselves, like my Aunt Joyce keeping my great-grandmother's story alive so that 4 generations later, my daughter knows the stories of her ancestors. In addition, research has shown that in more collectivist culture where the well-being of one's group is valued more than the individual's, social support, being flexible, these things are more protective and may help us to foster resilience. In dominant American culture, there appears to be a need for both of these, a combination of independence and interdependence. We focus a lot on generational trauma in a lot of conversations today, as we should, because we're working to better understand what we carry. It is equally, if not more important, to honor the intergenerational resilience that we carry, because those stories are also a part of our legacy. It's also important to think about the culture around us, socially, at work, in the home, and the effect it has on our resilience. Creating a culture of resilience requires many of the characteristics I've already named: community, connection, communication, and trust. Many of us have been in work settings and relationships, neighborhoods where these are lacking, and it can lead to feeling unseen, a lack of support, toxic environments, and can result in burnout and turnover, especially in care work professions that are already burdensome. And then the last C is change. How many of you know that change is hard for you? Change is difficult for many of us. It's important to disentangle change from control. For many of us, feeling out of control can be triggering, activating for us, especially those of us who have trauma histories. Yet change is inevitable. When we embrace change, we can focus on what is within our circle of influence and control. There's so many things outside of our control, even in this moment. Things like weather, politics, climate change, you name it. There's a laundry list of things the news reminds us affect us, but are outside of our control. And then there are things that we can't control, but we can influence: our relationships with others, our children's behavior, how we are seen and experienced by others. And then there's this small internal circle of things we can control: the way we take care of ourselves, what and who we prioritize, our own boundaries, and our individual behaviors. When we choose with intention to focus and prioritize what is within our influence and control, we're better able to accept change because we can change our internal narrative. And changing our own narrative matters, right? What we tell ourselves matters about how we feel and how we see ourselves and the world. There are a few key takeaways I want to leave you with. One, resilience is not a fixed trait. We can build and strengthen it. I am glad that we are not only what we are born with. We are not only our circumstances. We must show care to ourselves and allow others to show up for us. Positive connections with others help to strengthen our resilience, especially when we're weary or burned out. We've got to work with intentionality to create and nurture cultures of resilience. We're focusing more on what is within our circle of influence and control in order to build and pour into our well. Every deep breath we take and every small step forward, we're filling our wells from which we draw to promote our own resilience and well-being. Thank you.
Let's hear it one more time for Dr. DeLoach. Thank you so much. Transitioning over to our panel discussion. So I'd like to bring them up one by one and give them a great introduction. So I think Dr. DeLoach needs no further introduction. Please welcome Dr. DeLoach back up to the stage for our panel. Next to our panel, we have our very own Department of Behavioral Health Director, Dr. Georgina Yoshioka. So Dr. Yoshioka has over 27 years of experience in social work and behavioral health services, focusing her career on improving care for diverse populations, especially within the criminal justice, healthcare, and child welfare systems. Dr. Yoshioka is dedicated to destigmatizing behavioral health issues, advocating for early intervention, and enhancing quality care. Please welcome Dr. Yoshioka. And last but not least, definitely, we have for our final member of our panel discussion, Terrence Stone. So Terrence Stone is an inspirational leader who dedicated his life to empowering young people and helping them discover their true purpose. In 2001, he founded and is the CEO of Young Visionaries Youth Leadership Academy, president of Terrence Stone School and Community Consulting, and the president of the Southern California Black Chamber of Commerce for the High Desert Chapter. We will get into all of the amazing things that Terrence is doing in our community, but please welcome Terrence Stone. All right, this is your panel. We assembled this panel because you will see as we have discussion of just the vast experience, lived experience that they have, and then the amazing work that they're doing in our communities. So to start us off, especially because we got to know Dr. DeLoach a little bit, to introduce Dr. Yoshioka and Terrence, I'm going to start us off with Dr. Yoshioka. If you can start off, we often hear the phrase resilient and real, and that's obviously the name of our podcast, but how do you define resilience in the work you do, and what does it mean to you personally?
Thank you, Miranda, and thank you, everyone, for having us here today and being on this panel. For me, resilience, again, when I reflect in my life, and I was having an opportunity, during Dr. DeLoach, through your presentation, and the reference to a well, it really just reminded me of, myself and entering into the world that I felt that I had an armor of resilience placed on me, and again, not by choice. It was something that I felt when I reflect back about the importance of it, how it came to me, and in regards to like my mother being able to manage her mental illness at a young age with two older brothers and myself, and having to make a life decision for a parent that I believe no parent would want to make, is being able to turn your child over to a law enforcement officer to say, please take care of my children, as I need to take care of myself. So that form of resilience, in the sense of my mother doing that, just demonstrates her strength, and at the time, and her courage to do that in honor of her being a responsible but yet loving mother to me and my brothers. So I think as I look at it and I thought about it as I was thinking, I do a lot of thinking, believe it or not, but the idea is just realizing of how much in my life, of how much I've overcome. I was writing down some notes for myself of realizing that it's taken me a lot of years of my life to be able to say that I'm a survivor. It was never that I've identified as a victim, but I hid behind so much of what happened because I didn't want individuals to see me in a different light other than being someone who was normal. And I think when you realize of being, in the foster care system for a majority of your, 14 years of your life, also knowing that you grew up in a family where there was alcoholism, there was dealing with mental health, but also knowing that you've lost a sense of identity. So I feel between where I was and where I am today, it's just been a continual process, but also recognizing that I am resilient, and through that, I am a survivor. And that's something that I feel that, again, we tend to push aside, but I've been able to be more open about my story. So it's been more recent, believe it or not, than it has been in the past. And again, it takes a lot of courage to do that. So I acknowledge folks that are able to tell their story way further sooner than I have been. So I'm here today to be able to do that. But that's where I look at the importance of resilience.
Thank you. And even in our discussion of when we were kind of introducing our panel, that was a lot of our conversation as we'll get into each of your backgrounds, but of how we've been able to channel some of that pain into passion, and then how it's made us so resilient and getting into that space of thriving. So thank you, Dr. Yoshioka. Transitioning over to you, Terrence. So what inspired you to start Young Visionaries, and how has your vision evolved since its early days?
Thank you. Good morning, y'all. Y'all just looking up here at us. You know what? Young Visionaries, I started almost 25 years ago, and really it was my trauma-informed care activity for myself. If you know my background, you know that I was a second-generation gang member, and going through the trauma of that and from my household, I had to figure out a way that I can work with young people and let them know that it doesn't matter the community that you come from, the household that you grew up in, that you can do and be whatever that you want to do and be in life. So I didn't think that it would get super large or have, a whole bunch of staff and things like that. I just wanted to go and just work with young people, basically. And so we've been doing that for quite some time now. And it just evolved. It evolved, I think, because of the needs in the community. We started off with just doing gang intervention and prevention. That was our sole program. And then we moved to teen pregnancy prevention, I remember. And then our largest program right now is our mental health program, which is doing fantastic in the communities and in the schools and things like that as well, though, too. So then that's just my story, that I go out and I let young people know that you can make it, basically. And it's just about finding that resilience inside of you. And growing up in my household, in my community, nobody went to therapy. The only Thera in my house is probably Theraflu. That's all we had in the household. That was it, right? So then, but just letting young people, or just people in general, know that therapy is okay too. It's good to have somebody to talk to, and they ain't gonna tell your business in the neighborhood later on, things like that as well.
Very good, thank you. And there's many benefits to attending, of course, our in-person Resilient and Real Summit. And then those that listening, you get to hear the stories. But one thing that you are missing if you're not here in person is just seeing Terrence's amazing shoes that he has on. He has some really fly shoes that only our ones that are in our audience can see those. Love it, thank you. So we want to talk about recognizing the barriers, how we can challenge them, the systems that maybe suppress it, and then the community that can rebuild. So I pose this to any of our panelists who want to kick us off. What are some of the most common misconceptions about mental health in our community, and how can we challenge them effectively?
I'll start. I think one is just the misconception or the misunderstanding of mental health. Like I said, just growing up in my community, I've never heard of mental health. I never heard of depression, anxiety, Like if you felt like that in my household, you better go get some ginger ale or something. Go drink some ginger ale. Some of my people know what we talking about. Go drink some ginger ale and you'll be all right. I don't even know if they have medical stuff to it, but that ginger ale, I still have some ginger ale in my house to this day. Right. But I think just, because really now our kids are super in tune with their mental health, right? And I don't know how, and I don't know why, but they'll tell you, Mama, emotion or my mental health is not, I'm like, okay, let's see what we can do. But just growing up, like we never had that, basically. Like I know in my community, if you seem like you had some type of mental health issues or whatever it could be, it's the pastor is up the street, right? He gonna lay hands on you and pray it out you and things like that. So, but I think that understanding that we need to have therapeutic services when we need to see a psychologist or a therapist and things like that, but just to know that it's okay. Because, we grew up with that, especially our man. Help me out, man. Don't leave me by myself. I got on my shoes today. Right. But, it's just just trying to be macho. Is that the word? Like we don't do that. Basically, we have to tough it out and we have to figure it out. I don't care if you're depressed or your anxiety is high and things like that. We just had to figure it out and just go on with daily life. And I think I grew up just in that mentality, okay, I'm depressed, but it's not depression. Let me drink some ginger ale and figure it out and get my day going and things like that. So I think just breaking down those walls of if you feel like something is not right, that check engine light, come on, someone mentioned that. Let's stop and figure out how we can get it fixed.
I was thinking castor oil, but I don't know where you got the ginger ale. Either that, I'm drastically aging myself right now. I think a couple things. I think for me, when I think about the misconceptions, one is what you hear people. Language is powerful, and I think really that's where it's important. Some of the things that are said, comments, I can't say in a day in my work or outside of my work that I hear someone say something and it makes me cringe. I try to reframe, that's a clinician in me, so I try to reframe the statement to try to not say, hey, you said it wrong, but I'm going to reframe it so this way you hear, and hopefully the next time you say it, you'll be able to convey it that way. Not always the case. I think for me, one is growing up, a lot of it is about children are resilient. And the idea is, wonder is, where do people get that idea? I think as a child, what I find myself to be was I was smart. I was smart in a way because I was street smart. I didn't have books. I was observant. And what I realized is, how do I create myself in a way that I look normal? Something as simple as getting free lunch. I mean, back in the day, right? Back in the day, free lunch was stigmatizing. So what I did is I brought my own dishes so I could move my food to dishes that didn't present as they were free lunch. Hey, that's smart, right? I think also as I got older, I also realized for myself of hearing different statements. That person's crazy. That person's an addict. They're just use drugs. They don't care about life. They don't care about people. A person with mental illness, it's unfortunate they were born that way. It's something, why can't they just help themselves? Why can't they change? And it's things that you hear so often, and so you try to reframe that. I remember as a young adult, and I, at the time, became a parent. At a time in which I shared the story of growing up in foster care on a case-by-case scenario, I always remember one statement that was repeatedly said to me as a young mom. So, because you grew up in foster care, does that mean that you're going to abuse your child? And you realize that as a young adult, it was almost to a point where I thought to myself, it made me question myself of being a parent. Maybe I shouldn't be a parent. Maybe because I didn't have a mother or a father in my life consistently as my counterparts in different settings that I encountered folks that were parents. But maybe the fact that I didn't have a relationship with my mother, that maybe I couldn't be a mother. So here we go back to the street, the smart. The idea is learning by watching people of who are parents themselves. But it really empowered me to know that I am a good parent. I was a good mother. again, because I was observant, I learned. But it goes back to that is something that has always resonated with me for many times in my life. And again, as we all know, how many of your parents in here? Are we perfect? No, right? We know that. We might make a decision, not the best decision. We're looking for the best. But I think ultimately when you have that and that stigmatizing type of approach of language or statement said to you, it's something that stays with you. And so it takes the most out of you to be able to overcome that misconception. So I say to anybody is to acknowledge that everybody wants to be a parent. Everyone wants to be a caregiver, as you mentioned. We're all caregivers. We do the best that we can. So I think that's really about how misconceptions can present today.
How each of you too, and I think it kind of segues our conversation of kind of the cultural upbringing that plays a role into the stigma of mental health and getting the care. So when you were saying the castor oil, the ginger ale, like the vapor rub, like there was so many that was like the go-to and how it's kind of ingrained in us and our upbringing and how then it just kind of leads on. I mean, my grandparents said that to my parents, and then my parents said this to me. So how can we engage these diverse communities with the understanding that culture is important, but there are certain things that we need to break in order so that way we can rebuild and grow?
I think that's such an important question. One, I think it is really important for those of us who are engaging in these conversations to know how different communities talk about and think about mental health, and from a holistic perspective. So if you need to know that vapor rub, ginger ale, Robitussin, whatever the teachings were in the household, you got to be able to address that as part of the conversations, right? That it's okay, that those are the messages that you may have heard, but let's talk about some other understandings of what might be influencing your mental health. And when we are authentic and we bring all of our identities to these relationships, we gain credibility, we're trusted. And so our clients want to know that they can trust us, that we can hold whatever it is that they have to say, that even if we have lived something different, that we can hold their truths, we can hold the complexities of their family dynamics. And I call it complexities, right? Like we have a lot of stuff in our families, in our neighborhoods, in our communities, and can I follow it? Can I follow the thread of the family that you're not blood related to and who's in and out of the household and, these kinds of things without judgment, right? And when we gain that trust, that's when we are really able to delve more deeply into their pain, to be in the suffering with them, and to help facilitate their movement through that into a different way of understanding how they can be better, how they can live the lives that they want to live, even when that is different from perhaps those around them. Different pathways forward are still possible, but I think it has to start with authenticity. It has to start with honoring whatever the truths are that they're from. The other part is representation matters, right? Who they see on this stage today matters, right? Our stories matters. And so I think that's really important for all of us to remember who are engaging in this work.
And to follow up on that then, what does that look like in action? So I know we have clinicians, but I mean, you don't have to be a clinician for this to be put into practice. Like, this is our everyday life. So what does that look like successfully and to whatever scale?
I think that can look a lot of different ways. I think one of the things that just happened this morning, today, Terrence, I'll use as an example, he tells his own story, his journey so beautifully, and being able to learn and connect with that. When we had a Zoom call just to introduce ourselves, we all told very vulnerable parts of our backgrounds, and we were able to connect. And so I think with clinicians, we're taught in our training, oh, we're this blank slate, and I'm the one with the pen and paper and credentials to match, and so I'm not supposed to tell anything about myself. One of the questions I always ask clients at the end of an initial session or at some point in an initial session is, what do you need to know about me to trust me? I think it's such an important question, and I have never had a client ask me in 25 years of practicing, I've never had anybody ask me something that I was uncomfortable responding to in some way. But being able to honor that this is a relationship, it doesn't mean that I have to tell all of my personal business to my clients, but it does mean I need to honor that they may need to know something about me in order to trust me. And so part of that is vulnerability. It's modeling authenticity, sharing what we feel safe and comfortable disclosing. It also means being trained, right? Some of us are not trained or feel comfortable working across a variety of identities. And so we need to be trained. It's not our clients' jobs to educate us about all aspects of their backgrounds. It's okay to ask questions and lead with curiosity, of course, but checking our own assumptions, because part of that training in that work, our own personal work, is making sure that I'm not going in with assumptions about, as Dr. Yoshioka mentioned, assumptions about what it means to have lived and grown up within a foster care system. You know, making sure that I'm not coming in with negative assumptions if I'm working with Terrence about what it means to be a second-generation gang member, rather to lead with curiosity and to know that their story is still being written and allow them to be authors of that, and for me to be along with that ride.
Just to expand on that, I know for us, we do a lot of work now in the field, a lot of field work, right? And I think when we think about that, and I was just talking to Commissioner Dr. Samuel about it, I've had an opportunity to go out and do the point in time count for the past 3 years, and it's provided me an opportunity to go into the homes of individuals, which are, again, identified as unhoused, homeless. Again, these words that are attached to the presence because they don't have 4 walls, a door, and a roof over their head. But to them, that's a culture for them. And when we enter upon into the section of area that we're going, it's interesting. I was sharing, when I've gone, and Dr. Belford has been my sidekick on these outreach efforts, but I take actually dog toys. I buy them myself, and I get dog food. And it's my way to, when I go and encounter a person, I have that, because most of them have pets. By the way, just so you know, they don't have cats, so I'm not going to buy cat food next year. But I learned a lot. I thought they did, but they told me very kindly no. So, but with that, it learns that you know that when we think of the word culture, we think about what's presented before the person. And really it extends beyond that, as you mentioned, that the fact is that, you know, going to a home setting, I know the importance of where we're at today and the focus on encampments and areas and being able to clear and get individuals linked to housing, very, very important. But it does take a number of engagements, back to the trust, the vulnerability. They see you there. It's a conversation. I have to say with Dr. Belford, she does a great job when she's out there and she's engaging folks. But the idea is being able to hear their story. And I think it goes back to that, what's the circumstances, why they're there, but really it's not about let's get you up and get you in a place where we could put you with that roof and 4 walls, but how are we going to be able to do that and make it a successful transition for you for the long run? And really many of them, and we hear things of, they don't want help. They do want help. It's just they want it in a way that they can build it based on trust, understanding, and realizing that you are understanding where they were and where they are and where they do want to be. But part of that is that cultural understanding then from their lens and not from our perspective. So I just want to add that piece.
Yeah. And if I could just do a follow-up too to that, Dr. Yoshioka, I think that's like putting it in practice in the community, but I've also been able to, we've worked together just on a professional setting of what that looks like to share yourself. So what has that been like? And I know you started off your segment of sharing how there was some kind of hesitation, but of what's been your experience with that?
That's a great question. I think for me, again, I've teetered on sharing very much in the past, but I always felt that it was never the right time or the right place. And I think it's taken me to be vulnerable to be able to share. And I appreciate the response, and I have individuals that have reached back out. I've had a few folks approach me here, and I appreciate that more than you may have felt. But I'm going to say to you, it's just rather comforting for me because, again, it's lived experience. It's a story that must be told. And the reality is, I think when we are in positions in which we are in making decisions, it's not just about from the mind and the thinking, it's from the heart. Because it really is, the goal for me, as long as I've been in social work, is I've been boots on the ground. And with the boots on the ground, I've been able to see and experience what it is and what it is to receive services. But I also now have the opportunity to work with a great team in the time in which I'm able to work to build programs, and not programs by myself. It takes a village. So anytime something comes up, it's not about me like, I have this idea and I want you to do this. It may sound that way, but it's not. It takes many people who are coming together who have the mind, but also have the heart and have lived experience that may not have shared their story to date. But hopefully, as we all sit here today, it gives you the courage to know that it's really important to know why you do what you do and how dedicated you are, but to know that it's okay. We all have a story. It's a strength. It's not a weakness to be able to tell that.
And then Terrence, going to you, of that's really what you've built Young Visionaries. So what has been that experience of sharing kind of your upbringing, your story, and then seeing the impact with our youth in the community?
I feel like a Zoom. You ever started Zoom on mute?
Unmute yourself.
But I think that is very important. I think because look like most of us adults in here and professionals, and when you're encountering, we'll say young people, they see you like where you are now, right? They see you and they think you're like, man, you look like you just always had it together and that you always just make stuff happen. But I don't know about y'all, but for me, that's not the case. And so I love sharing my story. I don't tell them when they start asking too many questions, I'll be like, stay out of my business. But I like giving them my background to let them know that I've been through trauma and I've been through things. And hopefully with me sharing this, you can get through yours as well, though, too. Because a lot of times we do stuff. Earlier we talked about tradition and things like that. Have you guys heard about the family and they cut the ends off the pot roast? Right. Let me tell you that. All right. So just talking about asking questions and tradition. So there was a family and they passed a recipe down for years on cooking a pot roast. So every year they would cut the ends off the pot roast. And so finally, someone called great-grandma, and they said, well, great-grandma, why do you cut the ends off the pot roast? Because she had a little oven. So in order to fit the pot roast in the oven, she had to cut the ends off the pot roast. So for years and generations, without asking questions, they would cut the ends off the pot roast, and they got giant ovens, right? But without asking questions and understanding, oh, great-grandma had a little bitty oven, right? They would have known that you can keep those ends on that pot roast. The ends on the pot roast are delicious, right? So it's just asking those questions. So with young people, which we primarily work with, we try to be as transparent as we can. We allow them to ask questions so that they can understand this is why I did things this way, right? And so you're probably doing things that way because you've seen people that were older than you do things that way as well, though, too. So you have to help them to get in perspective and let them know also that it's okay to ask questions. Not too many questions, but ask some questions, so that they can understand that, that we all have obstacles in our way to getting to where we want to be. But the thing is figuring out how do you get through those obstacles. And then we let them know, too, when you get through it, make sure you tell somebody else how to get through it because they'll have those same obstacles as well growing up.
Thank you. And so we've talked about kind of some of the barriers that are in society and that we've encountered. So going over to then how can we, which was a perfect transition of how can we then cultivate that resilience during challenging times, which they're bound, they're on a daily. So how can we build and maintain resilience during times of personal and then collective crisis?
Go ahead, we looking at you.
I can start. Obviously, I named some things in the talk earlier, but the first thing that's coming to mind for me now is something I think that we've each shared in different ways, which is talking, saying the things out loud. I think the more we talk about mental health in the good times and the bad, the more we give permission to others around us to normalize it. And so I am very intentional about talking about what I do for my mental health. I try to model that for my daughter, for the people around me. This is what mommy is doing today for my mental health. I'm about to close this door. I need a break. But I think the more we talk about it, and not just when we're struggling, the more it becomes part of everyday conversation. We remove stigma. Terrence talked about how the younger generations, I'm so happy to see younger generations talking about mental health more. And, they will often, just say, oh, I got to protect my mental, as they often call it. Or at least that's what my students say. And we'll talk about what it is that they're doing with, social media. That comes with the good and the bad. There's a lot of positive information about therapy, about psychological health issues on social media. Now, we also know social media can be the cause of or contribute to some mental health issues. But I would just say that one of the best and easiest, most consistent things we can do is talk out loud and name what we're doing for our mental health and if we're having struggles, if we're having challenges, to not be ashamed to talk about that.
When you mentioned social media, I was sitting here, I was thinking about how, again, back in time, we didn't have a telephone. We had a telephone, ring, push button, three-way call. I can go on and on. I mean, ways that we thought we were very advanced in technology. Only to find out we weren't. But I thought about two scenarios about social media and how, again, wellness is about, right, being able to take care of yourself, lead by example. I'm not the best, so I'm never going to say anybody follow my lead. Just know I'm trying my best. The well was example. I've been trying to drink water. That's where I went right away. I went and filled it up. It's over there. It's not doing anything for me right now, but it'll be there later. But with that, social media, so two scenarios I learned about social media, about the impact, about one's wellness. I had a hairdresser. I say I had, because in the time with my hairdresser, I would see her once a month. She did a fabulous job on my hair. And with that, though, one day I was there, and I said, hey, great trip you went on. It was beautiful. You went out to San Jose. And she said, oh, you saw that? And I was like, well, yeah. I said, oh, my gosh, you had great pictures. It looked, someday I'd like to go up there. It was, like, really great. She said, but you didn't like it. And I said, oh. And I was like, oh. So, moment, I'm vulnerable. She's doing my hair. So I said, gosh, I will make sure to like your picture. She said, well, if you're going to look at it, you should like it. And I was like, got it. Noted. So every time I went on Facebook and I just liked it. I didn't even look at it. I just liked it because I thought, I'm in her hands every month. Eventually, I found a new hairdresser, no focus on social media, all good. On the other side, I've been very open about my loss, and I think when it goes back, when we talk about resiliency, I'd made a note on my paper about loss of identity. And I think for myself as a widow, and actually June 18th will be 11 years since I lost my late husband. So we can see it's still impactful. It seems like people will say, oh, 11 years, that's a long time. It's not. Every day, every year is a new year of reliving the experience. But one of the things I did experience in the time is that social media I had to get off of social media, because what I found is after everything, the occurrence of the events, and everyone will say, I'll be there, call me, things. I get it, people's lives move on. In the 3 months that I was by myself, I realized that when I went to social media, I became very angry. And I was angry because I felt, how could everybody else keep living when I'm not living? I'm here, but I'm not living because I've lost half of my identity. And so in that time, I realized how impactful social media can be, and realizing that, again, I had to shut it off, and I had to re-ground myself to know that it was nobody else's fault. Because there was times where I thought, even family, anything like that. So it was a time where it was really a bad time for me, very depressed about it, and realized, okay, put it aside. Now I need to rebuild my identity. So when you think about experiences of loss, and loss comes in different ways and shapes and forms, and how one can experience it, it's something that I always keep in mind when I hear someone that mentions something that's associated to a loss. So with that, I think, with social media, it can be very impactful, but it's a good way, because you do get to, see what people are doing. My hairdresser, for one, was an example, but ultimately, it's something that I think we need to, and again, I'm not lead by example, is to try to put down your phones, try to be engaged in conversation, do more outings, do things where you can do more socialization, because that interaction is important. That's really about your health as well, your wellness, and I think it's something that we get caught up in, and I think that's what we need to focus. And I just want to go on the flip side for the Department of Behavioral Health. For behavioral health, we started with Miranda and then also Raquel with doing wellness retreats, and I just want you to know that it's coming this year. So if you didn't think it was, it's coming. So yes, thank you. And they've been great, and we appreciate the participation, because we do honor and appreciate the work that's being done every day by every person in the department. No one has a more important job than anybody else. All of us have important jobs because we work together. We're a village, we're a team. We are here to serve individuals who are needing our assistance, our guidance for their wellness, and so we want to make sure that your wellness is met as well. So do your best to practice it, and again, it takes work. It does take work, but know that we're here to also support that.
Awesome. I like so how many have social media? How many got Facebook? See, none of the young people raise their hand. Facebook. But I have multiple social media pages, and just the anxiety, right? Like my birthday was last Friday. I think so, last Friday.
Happy belated.
Saturday, it was Saturday. Tell me happy birthday. Yeah. But having multiple social media pages, and like you said, when people are wishing you happy birthday, and just the anxiety of just trying to like all the comments, because they know. They be like, you didn't like my comment. I'd be like, look, man, I had like 20,000 friends on there, and I don't even really know you like that. But that social media, but just think as adults, though, who have more than one like social media platform, like Instagram, Facebook. Put your hands up. Don't mean you got the half a hand trying to hide it. LinkedIn, the worst for me, because that's my biggest population on there, right? And they aggressive panhandlers on LinkedIn. They be like, how you doing? Buy my product. I be like, man, I don't even know you. But just think as adults, right? And we're on social media, and we're monitoring, and we're making sure that if we post, you like, right? But just think as our young people though as well though too, because they're much more vulnerable. And this is really social media is really their world. Mm-hmm. Like I have grandkids. They be touching my flat screen TV like it's an iPad. I'd be like, get your stinky hands off my TV today. Got the fingerprints all on there. But because they were born into technology. I remember when we got our first computer in the house. Some of y'all was born with a computer in the house. It was strange. I grew up with typewriters, right? But the first computer was just, it was weird. But I'm MySpace. Who are MySpace people at? That's what I'm talking about right there, right? But just the anxiety of young people, and too, we were speaking earlier. You can't run away from social media, right? Because it follows you. Usually, if someone is picking on you at school or you have a bully at school, now they can have a whole army of people that don't even know you, side conversations and what happened, and they wasn't even there. I'm like, you live in Utah. You wasn't even there. You talking about the situation. And so just so with our kids, just the anxiety and the depression that comes with just having that social media, because it's on like all the time. I allegedly be driving, looking at stuff, right? I look up. I was driving so long, allegedly, looking at social media, and I'm just looking at the car in front of me. When I looked up, I was in a parking lot. I was like, what the heck? I followed this person home, trying to check my Instagram, looking up. But you can't, like, get away from it as a young person, basically, because even if you turn your social media off, someone will come and show you what happened and what they're saying on social media, basically. So also, too, on the flip side as well, it can be a great tool to use, to get positive messages out as well, though, too, on social media. So we try to do that, like, a lot. Like, we have a great staff and a great team that is constantly putting out videos and great posts and things like that. So we try to just keep those things out and things like that. So whoever who take a picture before for social media, and somebody take your picture, and you like, let me look at it before you post it. My wife do that. She like, let me see it. Like, I'll post it right now. Leave me alone. But because she's worrying about immediately what somebody else might say about her picture, right? She'll put all kind of, what's those things when you fix the face?
Oh, my God.
She'll filter that picture up and then post it, right? I used to do that, too. She used to call me Baby Yoda because I made my face so smooth. But the anxiety of it, though, right? The anxiety of it, you do not want to post something that someone's going to say something negative. You want some likes. And I'll be looking at my likes, too, Dr. G. I'll be like, oh, they ain't going to like my picture?
Oh, gosh.
This is a good picture,
It's
right?
a good picture.
But the anxiety of it, though, as well, though, too, but in our kids, though, we as adults, just think our young people, how impressionable they are, right? And then they have that social media, so they're, putting the filters on and things like that. I work with a group of kids, and they got social media, and I see they social media, I'm like, I don't recognize none of y'all because y'all filters. Just got everybody looking different in the classroom. So it was good to see y'all. Good to see y'all anyway. Good to see the real you today. Come on now. Right. But we have to realize that the social media is really like one of their main things, because this is like their world, basically. Mm-hmm. Like, I didn't grow up, I'm 55. I ain't grew up with no social media. Come on now with the 50s. That's what I'm talking about. I grew up, you had to go talk to somebody, right? And the phone, if you want privacy, you take that long cord and you wrap that thing down to the bedroom so you can go have a private conversation. But everybody know where you at because the phone in the bathroom, the long cord. You can't even hide no more, basically. So just keep in mind just the social media, and ask your kids about their social media as well, though, too, because sometimes they have things on there, or they are concerned about things on there that they really don't want to talk about in front of everyone else. So I always try to ask them, is that Instagram popping? What your TikTok look like today? Yeah. Things like that, so that, just to connect with them. I don't even know what I'm talking about no more.
No.
Add one thing. So, I just wanted to share one thing, aging myself here. Back in the day, I don't know if anyone knows, we used to have what we call a slam book. It was a slam book. Who knows it? Who knew it? Okay. So So this was a book that was created out of a notebook. And basically, you would then number all the way down 1 to 50, whatever you wanted to do, and you'd create different questions. And then you would pass it around. So if I was number 2, I would put number 2, and I would go through every question, and I would answer. So if it would say, who do you like? Who do you think's cute? I'd put the name, and I'd put number 2, right? But talk about anxiety, because when that book came back, you were like flipping through to see where it was. So anxiety existed way back in the day, but today it was a little bit more contained. But I just wanted to share that with the slam book, because I remember that. Yeah, I was like, whew,
Let's
yeah.
get some ginger ale.
And I think the social media discussion is a larger discussion in itself. It is a double-edged sword. But from my perspective, and I'd love to hear from our panelists, I feel like it's all in a search for connection. And that's what Dr. DeLoach, you talked about, of that building of resilience is that search for connection and authenticity. So how can, when we have great platforms that can be, and we saw that when the pandemic was happening, that social media, because we had to social distance, the social media was the only way that you could communicate with people, but it was the good and the bad. It provoked a lot of anxiety, a lot of just seeing, because it was right. It surrounded you. It was your everyday, because we couldn't go anywhere. So what can be some other avenues that we can point our youth to, one, and then even for ourselves, of searching for that authenticity, searching for that connection?
I just want to echo something that Dr. Yoshioka said, which is in-person human connections. And with our youth, they're in school every day. And so it's fertile ground for cultivating relationships among peers, with teachers, with staff, with coaches. And so I really underscore the value of those spaces. And we know that schools historically have been really important spaces for not just education, but social learning. And I really encourage us to think about how we can use those as opportunities. Many of our youth are in sports or in other social settings where there's sports, religious or spiritual communities, and those mentoring programs, other kinds of things where there are opportunities for them to engage. And I invite them to, and a lot of schools are moving to school-free, cell phone-free policies, which is great because it forces students to learn how to be present. Many of our children don't know how because they've grown up with technology, they've grown up multitasking. Many of us in this room may be having a difficult time just remaining present and not being on our phones. And so our youth learn from us. We model that for them. And so having meals where, okay, we're not live streaming our meal. We're not gonna tweet. We're not gonna post about the meal today. We're gonna actually connect and have some conversation. And so I think about every opportunity as an opportunity to engage and connect, and especially with youth when they're at times when they may not be talking as much. It's an opportunity to ask when they don't have another outlet, like asking about what's going on, asking about what they are scared of, what they're afraid of, what are they excited about, what are you curious about, and just connecting, engaging. But it requires us to be willing to do that as well.
It just reminds me when I go in restaurants and I see, again, when families are together in a restaurant setting and the child is holding a phone. I see now they actually have apparatus where they actually create so they can set the phone and things like that. So I've seen a lot of advancement to that, and I think as we get our kids, they're very much in tune to that. And then I've seen where folks are sitting and they're not even conversating with their phones in hand. So I think with that, but I want to add on top of the great points that you made is that also to add that we, in our positions and the work that we do, is we need to validate the resources that we're recommending on social media. And the reason I say that is because it's so important is that if you encourage a child to maybe, if they have an interest in chess, right, playing chess, and you say, there's probably a great forum, you could probably join, there's probably other kids and very similar, but walk the walk with them to know, because again, you don't know what they may encounter. And I think there are really good resources, maybe some, in person, but it's virtual, but yet knowing what that resource is, empowering parents also to be part of that. Again, kind of creating opportunity through virtual settings of some type of, I don't know, I'm a big origami. I say that, but I haven't built anything lately, probably for a while, but I have the paper and I have the books, but I do enjoy it. It's actually very peaceful. You can get frustrated if the wings aren't right, but at the end of the day, if you go online, you can engage and do something like that. So I'm just trying to say, like, most important is, and what we do is, there really are good resources. Just know what they are, research them before you recommend them, because that really can be impactful and very, positive for the child, especially for, again, and then I always go to the fact is we never know what's going on in the home. What I mean by that is that if parents are working and there's a caregiver that maybe the child then has access and the parent knows about it and they can check the use. I mean, I can go on and on, right? But I find more and more that I hear is that parents are disengaged or caregivers, and I think we need to be more prominent in promoting that they are engaged in doing that research.
I think what we got really great at as an organization is putting together like super fun youth conferences for kids. Like we call them Secure the Bag. And BAG stands for behavior, attendance, and grades, right? So we take these into the schools, and they're so interactive, right? The kids are constantly doing, like, they don't have time to, like, if they sit there trying to take pictures, they're going to miss something, right? Because, our team is up there, and they're just, giving out prizes, and, then we have the speakers come out and do stuff, and then entertainment, and just, like, back to back. It's just super stimulating for them mentally, for our young people. So we try to do those. And as well, too, I don't know, who's been to the wellness conference? Oh, y'all lying. Y'all been to the wellness conference. You better go. You better get a ticket. Right. But the wellness conference is so interactive when you're all together and you're in a large audience that, like, you really don't have time, because you always have someone, an MC up there that is just keeping it going and keeping you on your toes, and get up and let's play giant rock, paper, scissors. And so you run, it's just different things. And we also, just both of those events like that, just having kids get more active together. So they're doing stuff besides posting and things like that. They still get their post in, or they'll take pictures, but still they're doing more interactions with each other than interactions on their phone as well, though, too.
And Miranda, can you share about the extravaganza event we had last year, the wellness extravaganza? Because I think, again, bringing that to the community, we had 2,000 folks, correct?
Yeah. So I think that's one of the initiatives that the Department of Behavioral Health is really taking on with collaborative partners, of really focusing on creating those moments for the community. So our wellness extravaganza is bringing together multiple generations in carnival games, in music, in food, and it's really just a time that you can experience. Of course, it's just a free event is one thing, but just fun. And just being able to not, there isn't really any, like, technology there isn't any of those activities. It's really just large board games and dancing. And so I think that's something of that we're focusing on for just overall wellness.
And that's coming in October.
Coming in October, yes.
And I remember the one story of a family who approached a team and shared that this was the only meal they were going to have for the day, and that it was free. And it was just, they had dessert, the main meal, the drink. I mean, it was so touching, but just knowing that this is 1 out of 2,000 individuals, but can you imagine how many may have been there, and that may have been their only meal. So again, it's about being able to create that atmosphere, that open opportunity, that in-person, and I agree with Miranda, no technology. It was just great to see people dancing and just having so much fun and seeing the family. So it was a great event. So hopefully y'all can make it out for October. More information to come.
Thank you. So we've talked a little bit about, like, building personal resilience. And so it's an interesting kind of, for this panel to discuss, of an interesting way of how can we go about it as an overall community at, like, a larger scale of those that are seeking connection, but as a society. And I think each generation might have its own approach, but maybe it's involved in the work that you guys are doing too.
I think I just finished a book called How to Move in a Room Full of Vultures. I've been working on it for quite some time. But it's really just about how to navigate in adverse communities and situations and things like that, from my childhood to growing up into adulthood as well, though, too. And how do you move and build resilience and be resilient in a environment like that, right? Where it's not even, doesn't even have to be hostile, but it's just that you have so much baggage that you feel like that is holding you back and holding you down, and how do you release some of that baggage and let some of that baggage go, or some of us will just find a way to carry it comfortably, right? I know my wife, when we leave out the grocery store and they say, you want bags? I'm always like, yes, we want bags, right? But she'll figure out a way how to carry all that stuff to the car, like without bags. I'm like, you better get some bags. But just figuring out how do you either carry it or let it go. It's better to let it go, but sometimes it's harder trying to figure out how do you let it go and how do you move forward and how do you maintain. A lot of us come to work and we're all in the field of helping other people, right? That care, like we're always caring for other people. But the people that we're caring for, like we don't release our problems onto them. We have to let our problems go somehow, leave them at the door, and still be able to help someone else that day. And so, and how do we do that? And that's resiliency within itself. Like, how do you do that? Like, how do you leave all of your problems at the door to help someone else get through their problems, right? And so, and that's a skill within itself, right? So that self-care is very important because we're always going through that. I think I do that every day. I have a staff, a team of people that I know that they do that every day because our jobs is to work with young people. So how do you build that up? I don't know. But I know that I do it, right? I know that I have to get up and whatever I'm going through, I have to leave it at the door, right? I go into the RISE program, San Bernardino County Probation, and I'm working with those kids every Friday. And I do that for one, those kids keep me grounded. Like they cracking jokes on me all day in the classroom. And so, but two, I feel like they have to see me build and build resilience and go through things and make it happen as I'm working on them as well, though, too. Because a good friend of mine passed away, Dr. Reggie Webb, he said, Terrence, you can't hit a target that you can't see. And so for those kids that are going through things, they're incarcerated, they're second and third generation gang members, I have to be that target that they're shooting for. Like, you can make it happen, but you have to figure out a way to let go of that baggage or carry it comfortably, however you want to do it, but we have to figure out how to move you forward, basically. And I think it's just being consistent. That consistency kind of builds up resilience and things like that in you so that you'll be able to move forward. When I like to lift weights sometime, occasionally. Well, I ain't lift weights in a while, but still, when I do, I usually start light and then go heavy because I feel like that builds up my resiliency. And so in my mentality as well, though, too, I try to, if it's light, by the end of the day, it's already heavy, but I condition myself mentally and emotionally to handle that by the end of the day. But then you have to find a way to release that as well, though, too.
Yeah, I think I want to just add that I'm fortunate to have worked or work with folks who are most vulnerable and are on their second, third, fourth, fifth chance in life. But I also work with a lot of folks that I describe as pillars in my practice, folks who are holding up everybody else. The people who are raising their siblings, people who are supporting multiple households, people who are the folks whose phones ring in the middle of the night and who answer every time. And because on the outside we look good, we may have credentials, we may have graduated, whatever, many times people don't ask us, how are you doing? What do you need? And even when they do, we are often ill-prepared to answer, or we don't feel that we have permission to say we need help because we know folks who are far more needy, far more vulnerable, or far less resourced than we are. And so I constantly think about the strong ones, because lifting those heavy weights, carrying all those bags for other people is a reminder that that stuff is heavy. I think about all the bags I give my husband to physically carry. And when he tells me, no, I don't want to go camping because I don't want to carry that, you know what? But I think of that as an analogy for life, right? That we need to remember that we're all vulnerable in different ways, and that many of us are carrying our own stuff as well as the stuff of those around us. And it's up to us, that collective care, to check on Dr. G, right? To those of us who are in positions of leadership, who have a mic, who have cameras on us all the time. It's up to us to take care of one another and to remember that, show up for us as well, for one another.
I was thinking about the baggage, and I'm just going to tell everybody right now, I am the worst packer. So when I go on a one-day trip, I have a big bag, and then I have my bag with the computer, an extra screen, all the hookups, and I get a lot of comments from people, and all I say is, stay in your lane. That's all I can say, and it makes me feel better. But with that, and people will say when I come to work, I am a bag lady, so I do have multiple bags, and probably that's why I have a bad back. But not to go there right now. Let me just say, I think for me, what I think about is for the County Department of Behavioral Health, we have about 1,200 employees employed through the Department of Behavioral Health. We're the size of 2 states for a county. I think what we think about is how do we reach out to communities, and the importance is that every community is diverse. Right? We think about even where we live and how the differences of living in a city and how it's so different when we drive through certain parts of it. But I think the most important, what we need is advocacy. We need awareness. We need to be able to know what the resources are. I think what it is that when it comes to time for resources is when people are at a point of need or in crisis. And that's not the time in which we need to do education on the resources. We need to get people where they need to go. One of the things for us is where we have under our public relations, our outreach and services, is that we're everywhere in the community because we want to raise awareness. I myself, I've done it. I've been on Ontario Airport doing the 5K run. I'm there at the table. I see my team working really hard, doing Narcan training, bringing awareness, bringing our services, talking about employment opportunities. But it's always about the fact is that we have to be the voice. And I think we have to be embedded in our communities. And we have to also acknowledge that Department of Behavioral Health, we don't do it all. We do not. We are just a small piece of it. Half of our budget goes to contracted services through our diverse providers. And it really isn't for our providers. We could not reach everybody that we need to reach. So with our providers, it's really important because a provider creates an office or establishes a service in a community. Those that are working there are going to be aligned to that community. So that's why it's so important that we work hand in hand. It's a collaboration. It's a partnership. Again, when we know at Terrence, we can't do it alone. We work with Terrence. You take it out to the kids. You take it out to the different communities. We can't do all of that. And that's why we're so appreciative of that. But when we talk about how do we get this to the community, we have to walk it into the community. We need to put it into action. And we need to give notification of what's there before a person needs it. If they take it home and it's sitting on their counter, it's better than sitting in our office. So we really want to be able to say, we need the ambassadors, we need it. So all of you that are working with your clients, at the end of the day, even when they're walking out, give them a document about crisis services. Why? It's not to say that they're going to be in crisis, but if they ever are, that document is with them. It's in their home. It's there available if they need it. A neighbor, a friend, someone calls them, hey, guess what? I have this information. We have a website. I'm sure we can say to everybody, go to the website. media, social media, right? But the idea is ultimately, I'm still old school. Everybody knows if you go to my office, I got stacks of paper. Don't ask me what's on them, but probably got to throw it away. But it really is a time where someone asks me something, I'll be like, oh, hold on one second, I have that right here. So again, I think it's really important that we get this messaging in the community, and it's an everyday job. It's not something that's a one and done. So we just really need to be able to do that for folks.
Thank you. And I think you kind of summed up some of our conversation of it is a collective effort, like that you said, that where the Department of Behavioral Health is only one piece, and it takes all of us to have that understanding, but then also be able to be advocates, to walk the walk. There's so many resources and components. I want to just highlight before I forget of just Dr. DeLoach's moment of meditation of when is the last time that any of us took just a brief moment, and then how can we take that moment to then into our communities, into our networks. You don't need to be a direct service provider to have an impact. So thank you. Thank you to all of our panelists. This is not the last that you'll see of them. We are going to take a brief break, and then if you have not submitted your questions, we'll come back and then see what the audience has to ask for each of you. So thank you. All right, welcome back, everyone. Welcome back. Thank you to everyone that submitted your questions. We do have quite a few from the audience for our wonderful panelists. So the format for this section is I will read out some of the questions that were submitted, and then we will have some rapid fire to end us out. Sound good? Rapid fire. It's not too rapid. Like Jeopardy. No buzzers or anything. And these ones, any of our panelists, you're more than welcome to jump in. But one of the first, I guess, is directed to Dr. DeLoach. What is the name of the artist who sings the song that we listen to during meditation?
Great question. A beautiful artist by the name of Cleo Sol, S-O-L, Cleo Sol, and the name of that song was Know That You Are Loved.
Thank you. Next question we have, it has been noted in this discussion that modeling is key. As people, from my experience, being genuine is the key to building relationships. How have each of you fostered genuine relationship building within your professional roles?
They're looking at me. I think one is just being genuinely consistent. Basically, you're always going to get the same Terrence Stone when you see me, basically. And so I try to model that. Also, too, I with my staff, my team, I think I spend more time with my staff than anybody else, because I'm at work every day, all the time, doing something. And so, but also, too, I know that I would never send them to do nothing that I either have did or would not do. Like, I would never send you into a fire that I have not walked through already, basically. So just them knowing that and seeing that. So when Dr. G earlier talked about just being out in the community and community engagement and outreach, I did that already. Or sometimes when they go out there and they set up, I'll pop up for a little while and say hello to the people and hang out and give out some stuff, just so they know that I'm not too big to give out stuff and be in the community and make sure that the community know whose we are and things like that.
Very good.
I think that the key, from a professional lens is about the, again, as Terrence mentioned, working, living by example. I think the importance is to, and we just mentioned this, is that I'm human. I make mistakes. I am going to make mistakes. I think the key is to be apologetic for it as well, but also to know that and acknowledge that a mistake is made. A mistake has been made. Because again, sometimes we in roles, and for many of us in our professional roles, especially when you're in decision-making role, sometimes you have to make decisions on the whim. It may not always seem like the right decision, but the idea is to know that it's the best decision that can be made in that time. Doesn't mean later it cannot be changed or cannot be modified. But again, I think ultimately is being able to even set up here today and be out in the community and share your story, to know that outside of my life, of my professional work, I got here based on the fact of my lived life. And without that, I wouldn't be who I am today. And when people may ask you the question, if there's something you could change in your past, what would it be? And ultimately, I always say there would be nothing I would change, because I wouldn't be here today. So I think it really is about modeling the importance of be acceptance of who you are, and it's okay. We're not perfect. Again, everyone asks me if someday I'm going to write a book. I get scared because I have to then write some truths. And the reality is, there is a time to tell that story, but I think there is times where I've not always made great decisions, and I've had to live behind those decisions, but ultimately have grown from them. But knowing, as I look out and just seeing the audience here, I know as many of you can resonate with that, to know is that we are human, we're not perfect. We're going to do our best to do what we can with what we have, and basically, again, model that to all of you, and especially in professional leadership roles, is really about mentoring individuals. So someday you'll be the one who's sitting up here, because I do look to retirement. I mean, that's the idea. 27 years. I'd like at some point to transcend into the next world of no phone calls, no emails, no policy reviews, I can go on, right? But the idea is, again, and one of the things I also do on my spare time is I actually teach. I actually find a lot of joy in teaching, and the reason why I do it is because that is my way of giving back to the next generation. And again, I've learned the next generation is not the young generation, it's an array of generations, because even as myself, as an older adult going back to school, I encounter individuals who are now coming back to school, who now have gone through their life and their journey and obstacles that they've overcome to come back. So for me, it's about being able to create that work and that educational component, and saying to all of them, this is exciting because I know you're the next generation that's going to come in and carry the legacy of all the great work that we're doing every day.
Thank you. Next question that we have from our audience is, one of the most powerful tools in life, which requires no professional experience, is to simply ask someone how they are doing and listen when they respond. Paying attention to those around you matters. But it's also important to know resources when it can become too much for you. What are some resources that you would recommend?
That's a great question. One, I think it's great to be available to people and to be that listening ear, that shoulder to cry on, and to have boundaries around that, to know how much of that we're able to hold, and when it's time to encourage people to use other resources, including other people. In terms of resources, I think it really depends on what the person would benefit from. I think there are always religious and spiritual resources. There are resources for physical health. There's exercise, there's all of those things. And then there's professional help, which obviously, I'm a practicing psychologist, I am a big supporter of. Obviously, there are county resources, and so I think really being specific. I love warm handoffs, meaning pull out your phone right now. Not I'll send you later, because anybody like me who, if you don't do it right now, it may or may not get done, or it wakes you up in the middle of the night remembering to do it. And so pull out your phone right now. Let me show you, right? If I'm on campus, walk with me. I'm going this way. And so I will physically walk someone to an office and talk to the people that I know there. Hey, or if I can't, ask for Martha, ask for such and such, and say that I sent you. Because people are much more likely to take advantage of those resources. But if you aren't sure who or what resource would be most beneficial, and we don't always, and that's okay. We don't have to know or have a personal referral for every need that everyone has. You can say, you know what, I don't know, but I know who does, right? And connecting them to that. So I'm a big fan of really personalized kinds of support and referrals and resources that are accessible. And so if somebody can't afford to pay out of pocket for something, that's okay. We have other resources. Thankfully, you have, what was it, 1,200? DBH, a really large, magnificent DBH team here in this county. There are hospital-based referrals. There are so many different avenues. And then there are books. There are podcasts like this one that folks could benefit from. So I also like to share resources, not just in that moment, but later, right? If I know somebody's struggling with something and I come across an article, I come across a song, I come across something, you know what, I was thinking about you. I know you've been going through, you know, or I know you're still grieving, you're still whatever, it's been a minute, but you know what, here's this resource.
And I just want to add a personal resource on top of that. For me, remember I mentioned earlier that I'm a big paper person, right? One of the things I do have is I have a paper calendar, and I'm talking a full-blown book that has every week for the year. And the reason why I have that is I know a lot of people use their phones, and it's really hard for me because I can't see in the future on my phone without doing this. So what I do is I have a paper calendar, and basically what I do is I actually plan my year. So in that, what I do is I basically will put in everything I do every day because that helps me. And if you saw it, and I color code, by the way, so I have certain colors for certain activities. And my highlighters, whether it's personal or work, things that are very organized, and helps me compartmentalize what I have going on. And every Sunday is when I fill out the next week. Every month, I do in advance. So one of the things is I book trips. I do things. I reach out to my family. Hey, I'm going to go out to Carlsbad. Do you want to join? I'm going to looking at this weekend. Hey, I'm going to go here. And it helps me be able to balance between my personal and my professional life, but still have a bird's eye view of everything going on. So that's the only thing I would say. The second thing that I just want to add is one of the rules I have set for myself is at the end of the day, when I go home, and no matter who I talk to, my 10-minute limit of talking about work. After I reach, now this is not 10 minutes per person because I won't have friends. What I'm talking about is 10 minutes max. And I highlight something that I feel is relevant, that I need to share, that I need to get off my shoulders or anything like that. It's usually my sister, but the idea is, and she doesn't have good advice, so that's actually shortens the 10 minutes. But the key thing is I'm able to then cut it off. And it happens so many times, you can just find that you keep talking about it and talking about it. So it's important to put a time limit, it's okay, and then just say, okay, that's it for the day, and that's it, and put it to rest. Because guess what, tomorrow, it's going to be there.
As an extra tip to that, a similar practice is I'll send voice memos, and that's like a nice, because it doesn't have to engage in a dialogue of let's just like sulk into this, and let me just get it off my chest, and I see, oh my gosh, I talked straight for 5-6 minutes about a situation, and I have the opportunity to delete it after, and so that's always kind of like a good release of also taking care of myself. Another question that we have from audience is, how can an employee take care of their mental health when they work in maybe like a high-paced environment, but still remain positive for their clients?
I think just that self-care, like you have to do stuff that you like to do to decompress and relax and things like that. Meditation, like we just did earlier, right? Or simply, going to the gym. That's what I do. I go to the gym. I work out before I start encountering people, so I can get all that out. Then I say, "Hey, how you doing?" After that, and whatever helps you to decompress. You just have to start and just do that. Be faithful to yourself in that, basically. I don't care if you go get your nails done and your toes and all that stuff. Y'all know what y'all talking about, right? Just whatever it does to help you to woosah sometimes, and just be faithful. A lot of times we're faithful to everyone but us, right? But we have to learn, like, it's okay to be faithful to yourself as well, though, too.
I would just add intermittent breaks throughout any and every day. Some years back, I had a colleague who was a smoker and would take smoke breaks and would stop by my office, and she started inviting me. And I was like, you know what? I could use a break. I don't smoke, but... So she's like, yeah, so her joke was, come take a non-smoking smoke break with me. And she smoked a lot. So I didn't know that in advance when I agreed to this, but she started taking me on her smoke breaks, and it was actually really helpful. It would just break up the day, and it wasn't that long. She'd take, whatever number of puffs, and we'd chat. So it was also a good way to connect with her. It was outdoor. It forced us to be outside. I lived in Chicago at the time, so I didn't always appreciate that part. But it got me into the habit of taking intermittent breaks during the day, just to move around, just to go outside, to connect with a colleague, or if I'm working from home, to connect at home with my husband. And so, intermittent breaks, because we will always have something due. There's always going to be a deadline, the fast pace, slow pace, it doesn't matter. Take breaks.
Go ahead. I was just going to ask a follow-up of, did you find that you showed up better after these breaks? Because often the misconception is like, let me just go through all of these emails, let me go through all of this work, and I don't want to lose those 10 minutes.
Yeah, I think my colleagues and students, and probably clients as well, will agree that my tone is a little better if I've had a break. I think people know if I'm taking care of myself. Even my loved ones know. Like, I always know that I may be a little edgy when my husband, my daughter, like, hey, you need to go on a run? You need, why don't you go and do that? But yes, absolutely. I feel better, but also I think I'm more productive, and just the quality of how I'm able to show up after those few minutes of a smoke break can be helpful.
What was she smoking?
Oh, jeez.
I'm just playing.
I think one piece I'd like to add is that it's how you start your day. And it's funny as I'm looking at Maribel right now, because I came to her one day and I said, I learned this new concept. And she was like, what was that? And it was called, I said, it's check your weather. And for me, it's like when I get in my car, it all begins there, right? We wake up in the morning, you could already tell the direction. So when you get in your car, I've learned too my music. So I've learned like avoid hard rock, anything like beat, boom, 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 because then I'm just like, okay, I gotta get to work. But I think it's a matter, and try not to have too early a phone conversations. I'm still working on that. Sometimes I feel like I can get a lot of work done. But I think it's about checking your weather. If you know that your day is already stormy, to be able to make some self-reflection, to realize like what's causing that, to know, because if you don't have that under containment, when you go into the office, it'll present. And even though you may try your best not to. So every now and then, Maribel, she said to me, she's like, gee, check your weather. So I think, it's a good thing, because it's sometimes, and it's probably, you may not even know how you're presenting until somebody says that, and then you realize, because even though you may feel you're trying to portray a certain way, it may be what's physically on the outside that someone's seeing. So thanks, Maribel, for that. But I think, again, it's something that it's really important, is how you start your day, and then, as I mentioned earlier, how you end your day. Because I think a lot of times it's everything in the in-between. And someone talked about, working in high pace and in a high-paced type job, we're drawn to that. So many of us that do that, it's because it's something that we're drawn to. We actually do really well. It's when we forget to take the time to realize what we do well, and realize that we need to make decisions about how we take care of that. Because it's something that, again, it's inherent in us. Like we constantly go, go, go. But it's when we start coming down from that. And that's where you need those resources, those outlets, times with friends, families, outings, things like that. Doing things that are going to find pleasure. Watching TV. I don't know about you guys, but I'm a big Hallmark watcher. I'm huge. And I know the story. I already know. They're going to find someone, fall in love, and it's going to be happily ever after. I got it. So, but the idea, though, is when you're sitting there and you're just vegging out, right? You're just like, wow, this is great. And I find myself crying sometimes. Like, I'm like, why am I crying? Like, I already know, right? But the idea is it's calming. And I think that's really what we do, is we all have to find our own way to find resources that will make us realize that, hey, I'm taking care of myself. But the next day when I go in, I know that feet are going to hit the ground, because that's what I do best.
Thank you. Another question we have is, what are some challenges you have faced with boundaries as professionals and as caregivers?
Large sigh.
Feel like y'all looking at me again. What y'all? I think, well, boundaries. Like in my position, I'm the executive director, been executive director for close to 25 years. So you always have to find those boundaries. Like I said earlier, like I'm around my staff and my team more than anyone. Like I think I just go home to sleep and eat, and then I come back to work the next morning. And so with that too, you just have to, have it in the back of your mind. Now, I'm very mission-minded and purpose-driven, right? So that's always at the end, in my mind, did we get it done? Like, I don't care what we've been through today, how stressed we are, whatever. At the end of the day, did we get it done? So that's what I'm always thinking about, like, that day. So everyone on our team, they have a specific mission or purpose or chore that they have to do within organization to make stuff happen. So, and too, I joke around a lot. See, and with that too, so I have to check that because somebody will say something, and then something just pop in my head and it's fall out my mouth, and I didn't realize I said it till afterwards. I was like, I shouldn't have said that. My bad. But it was funny though, right? And so even with those boundaries as well, though, too. Also, too, just being with, we have a great team, and just knowing, like, our staff go through things personally. They lose loved ones and, go through relationship up and downs and things like that, and just knowing, how far to indulge in this conversation. Do you want to know this conversation? Is this conversation going to get me in trouble? Things like that. So I'm always thinking about those actions too, as when I'm working with my team as well.
We could talk about boundaries all day, right? Boundaries can be really hard for me, given I approach people and I approach my work from a space of love and a real commitment to the healing and well-being, especially of people who look like me. My boundaries with work have strengthened as I've learned boundaries with family and in my personal life. And that's been a journey, like for so many people. I'm a lot better at it now because I have to, right? I'm older, I can't do as much. But also as a parent, I will always steal from myself, but never from my daughter. And as, with a child who has health needs and that kind of thing, I need flexibility and want to show up. I need to show up in different ways for her. And so I think as I have lived and I have grown, I have come to better understand how to set limits, how to honor those limits for myself, but also for the people around me, and also to show up in ways that are meaningful. Because when I don't honor my boundaries, then I'm going to be resentful and be giving people the side eye around me, and that's unfair. It's unfair to them when I didn't set or honor my own boundary. And so for me, that's been a journey, and I'm so much better at that today. People that I work with know that I have hard limits around, like, nope, that's my family time. You can inform me of something, and I will get back to you on that. And I feel okay. Guess what? Nothing terrible has happened. And so, when you live enough and and have survived real emergencies, real traumas, real horrors, it also allows you to keep other things in perspective. And so that also has been really helpful for me.
So I'm going to give you two sides. So from a personal side with my brother, and I've shared in different forums that my brother's lived with mental illness since he was in his early 20s. And as for me, I'm his primary caregiver since we lost my father 3 years ago. And in this role, it's a balance between being a sister, but being the responsible person who has to make decisions for him both financially and for his medical care. Now, good news is my brother and my sister are very much doing things very supportive with that. My brother lives in a facility, and again, knowing that my professional side and the job that I do, and knowing when I walk through the doors of the facility, I have to keep my hat on as a sister. It's so easy to find with that boundary that you could cross over and begin to question things. But I have to have faith in regards to understanding and being on the professional side of knowing what it is to operate a facility and what those challenges are, but what the positives are. And seeing that every day when I talk to my brother and when I see him, he looks healthy, he looks well. He might complain here and there. It's always about snacks, but we got that covered. But the idea, again, it's that crossing over and being able to be that person that can flip the hat in regards to ensuring that he is well taken care of, which he is. Sorry, I get emotional about it because, again, it's my older brother, and at the end of the day, as a sister, it's always my primary responsibility is to ensure that he's living his best in his 60s. But with that, on the flip side of it, one thing I've learned through my time, and I've carried my role in leadership positions since a very early age. I would say my first leadership role, just so everybody knows, I worked at Chuck E. Cheese. But with that, I was a team leader. I kind of took on these roles, and I was always liked to do that. But I've learned now, even in the role that I am today as a director of a department with 1,200 employees, over a $700 million budget, and the idea is I have a great team, but what you do find is it's a very lonely position. And I think what it is most people may not think that because you think, like, how could it be so lonely? Well, I remember the day when I was in the department and I was a clinic supervisor, when I promoted to a program manager, when I promoted to a deputy. I had more resources in regards to people that I could go to and I can talk to and I can consult and I can have conversations and have those in the weeds moments and maybe do some complaining, again, because it's part of the role, right, when we're in these different types of positions. But when you find yourself as you begin to move up, one of the boundaries is about being in these positions where you don't have that ability to do that, and it is a loss. Because again, sometimes you do at the end of the day go home and just feel like, wow, who can I talk to? Who can I say? That's why that 10 minutes with the family, they don't care. They don't understand if I'm talking about SB 43. They're like, oh, okay, great to know. Thanks for sharing. But the idea, though, is, again, I think when we talk about the boundaries, is this something, and I think, Terrence, you nailed it well, is that we're also always constantly thinking about what we do, what we say, who we engage with. And it's not to not be real. It's about, though, understandably, again, when you're dealing with the political elements of the things, but you want to be driven by your dedication, you want to promote your team, you want to foster what the asks are, the needs are, but then you're in between this pulling force and trying to create that balance. That's that boundary, and sometimes it can be very challenging, but the worst is when you feel like you're doing it alone. So I think at the end of the day, it's really about, I think it's a juggling act, right, between your personal, but also within your professional.
I like how all of you touched on that it's a learning process. It's constant learning. It's not something that is necessarily black and white of just set those boundaries and just go by them. It's definitely not that easy, but we're each trying to, on a daily basis, try to achieve that. So those are the questions that we have from our audience. A segment that we have at the end of each of our podcasts is just some rapid fire myth busting. So what is a mental health myth that you would like to debunk? And it could be just overall stigma, some of the barriers, myth about resilience. What have you encountered?
I'm going to say that talking about mental health is not a weakness. It is a strength, and it's one that in which we must endure and know that mental health is everyday part of everybody's life. And to know, most importantly also, is that when people say there's no resources, there are resources. Understandably, as mentioned earlier, is that we have to get the education out there, the advocacy. And so there I look across this room and say, for all of you to be here today, is that you are that person. So please spread the word to know.
Yeah, I was just going to say that depression is something you can just shake off, that you can just cheer yourself up from. That depression, just to underscore that, especially clinical depression is significant and can be disabling for people. And some folks can struggle with that off and on for a good chunk of their life. And so, let's avoid trying to just cheer people up, and instead trying to see them, hear them, and try to show support in ways that they can feel, in ways that they need.
I want to say that in the African American community, we do have mental health, and you cannot cure that with ginger ale. So,
that was your mic drop moment. Any final comments from our panelists as we wrap this wonderful discussion up?
I would just like everyone to give applause to our panelists that are next to me, please, Dr. DeLoach and Dr. Terrence. And just want to thank everyone for being here. Miranda, great job. Just want to give please give a round of applause to Miranda and her team for putting together this wonderful venue. I know they were here super early, I have a feeling. But with that, again, to acknowledge that May is Mental Health Month and the great activities that have presented and that we're able to raise awareness. We appreciate you all being here. It's so important, looking out and being able to say just how proud I am to be the director for Department of Behavioral Health. But not only that, to know that as an individual who has a mother who would live with mental illness as well as a brother, to know that I appreciate every day your dedicated work and your willingness to come and make a change for individuals to know that they can have optimal wellness in their life, and you are that person that brings them to that journey. So thank you to all of you.
also, for everyone in the room as well, though, too, you are a small part of something major, basically, because we have a whole army of people out there that couldn't even fit in this room, but they will, we'll see them, or they'll see us on the podcast. But just stay in the fight. Just make it happen. Be resilient within yourself to help other people be resilient within themselves as well, though, too. Thank you.
I'll just say thank you all for having me. It has been really just a great conversation, and to be in great company today. And I hope that each of you is able to take even something small that you learned here today, a new insight, a new tool, a new resource, a new something that you're able to take forward with you and to share with somebody else who was not here today.
Thank you. Let's hear it up one more time for our wonderful panelists. Thank you all for joining me up here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We do have some short remarks as a PSA, but before I pass it over to Carol, I do want to just bring up Edin Haptigidgis up here to be recognized. She is the one that planned. This was her brainchild, so bringing us all together that made this happen. Thank you, thank you, thank you, from bringing together our wonderful panelists to writing out some of the questions, finding the venue. Just a kudos to our wonderful part of our public relations and outreach team, Edin Haptigidgis.
Thank you so much, Miranda. And again, thank you guys for being here. Most importantly, mental health is real. Wellness is important. Make sure you share everything that was talked about today. I want to say thank you to Miranda for allowing me to be able to just be as expressive as I wanted to be, but also to my team. You see them at every outreach event. You see them everywhere. We are trying to promote wellness. And yeah, so thank you so much.
So we had a great discussion here today. I hope you have some major takeaways that you can take into your practice, take into your personal lives. But we also want to just share some of our training opportunities that we facilitate from the Department of Behavioral Health. So I'd now like to welcome up Carol McDonald, our Community Outreach Coordinator.
Try to put it in here. All right. Hello, everyone. You hear me okay? Yes, okay. Good 5 minutes till afternoon. Hello, my name is Carol McDonald. I am the Community Outreach Coordinator with the San Bernardino County Department of Behavioral Health. Thank you all so much for being here today. I hope you feel well-fed, engaged, and hopefully really inspired by the conversation that we had here today. I'm happy to have the chance to share some valuable and potentially life-saving training opportunities that the department offers to support the wellness and safety of our community. DBH offers free mental health and suicide prevention trainings open to all community members, teachers, health workers, faith leaders, law enforcement, really anybody who is in a position to help. Whether it's a small team or a large group, they're designed to give you the tools to recognize and respond to mental health or substance use challenges in those around you. Mental Health First Aid Adult Training is an 8-hour course that teaches you how to identify, understand, and respond to the signs of mental illness and substance use disorders in adults. This training is offered to anyone 18 years or older. DBH also offers Youth Mental Health First Aid Training. This is an 8-hour course that focuses on helping youth ages 12 to 18 who may be experiencing mental health or substance use challenges. This training is ideal for anyone 18 or older who regularly interacts with youth, as I know many of you do, such as parents, teachers, coaches, youth leaders, and more. Both mental health first aid trainings improve mental health literacy and reduce stigma, which is key to early prevention, and something this department prioritizes because it's so important. The department also offers trainings related to suicide prevention. The Applied Suicide Intervention Skills Assist training is a 16-hour, 2-day interactive workshop that provides in-depth training to recognize when someone may be at risk for suicide and how to help them. All community members 16 years or older may attend this training. Our department also offers Safe Talk, Suicide Alertness for Everyone. This 3-hour training helps you recognize and support someone who may be having thoughts of suicide and connect them to appropriate resources. All community members 16 years or older may attend this training. It's also important for me to mention that these trainings are not only for professionals, they're for all of us, because we all have the power to make a difference, whether you're a coworker, a friend, parent, or neighbor. Knowing how to recognize the signs and respond can save lives. So these are really essential tools. To view our current training schedule, you can scan the QR code behind me. It'll take you straight to our website, and you can head to the events tab for full details on what we have coming up. And if you're interested in bringing one of these trainings to your workplace, your school, your church, or community group, we'd love to make that happen. So please stop by the DBH resource table located just outside. Our team's ready to answer your questions and help you begin the process to get a training scheduled. At the training, you'll also find our outreach card with our email inbox, so feel free to reach out with training requests, outreach requests, or other questions. And lastly, we want to hear from you. Are there any types of trainings you'd like to see the department offer in the future? If so, please email us your ideas. Your feedback helps us better serve this community in a way that's tailored to its needs, with intention, and with partnership. Thank you again for being here today and for supporting mental health awareness and safety across San Bernardino County. We hope to see you at one of our trainings or any of our other events this year. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Carol. Well, that concludes our Resilient and Real Summit. Thank you all for making it a priority and being here today. Thank you for being here. Have a great rest of your day.